Aloha, what's up everyone? Welcome to another episode of Omens. I'm JayDreamerZ, and we're going to check out what's going on around the world to see how close we are to the apocalypse, which I firmly believe in. I'm an author of the Ancient Oblivion series, where I talk about the cyclical apocalypse that happens to this world. I call it the plasma apocalypse. And in this series, we like to take a look at the current events to see what's going on around the world that might be an indicator for how close we are to that next apocalyptic cycle that's coming up. Let me just double check my chat just to make sure everybody can hear me and see me okay. And I'm not having any technical difficulties. Kells Bell says I'm sounding great. Conspirinator says audio's good. All right, cool. Well, welcome everybody. Good to see you guys. Jim Donovan, what's up, dude? Hey, Jim Donovan just hooked up a super chat. Thank you so much, Jim. All right, cool. Let's jump right into things. Oh, hey, by the way, I have these keychains for sale on my website. One side has Mount Meru with the blue beam. It's kind of hard to see because of the green screen. And the other side has my JayDreamerZ logo on a stylish black long chain. It's got two different parts. If you're interested, go to my website. I will personally mail it to you in this handy dandy little JayDreamerZ mailer. And there's some other stuff on there for you to check out as well. All right, cool. Thank you so much, everybody. And thanks again, Jim Donovan. High five. All right, cool. Let's jump into the omens of what's going on. I hope you guys checked out my Apex Dome short that I just released on pretty much every platform. Today's moon phase. Let's see what today's moon phase is. Nearly invisible. It blows my mind that people still look and they can see the color of the sky right through the gradient and everything. And they'll just be like, oh, that's the dark side. Well, why isn't it dark? It's nothing. It's an invisible section. This right here is the apex dome being projected into our sky. This is really important for the next omen that we're going to take a look at here. And it's related to antiquity. It's related to ancient events that happened. It's related to the stories of titans and giants, specifically King Og, which is what we're going to talk about right now. For more information about the apex dome and the origin of the moon, go check out my latest short that I just posted. I posted it on my Facebook. I posted it on Twitter and X. I mean, whatever, all the stuff, Instagram, all that stuff. It's all there. All right, cool. Next up, scientists reveal origins of giant object that's smashed into Earth. A giant object that's smashed into the Earth. So how do you interpret these types of things? If you believe there's a dome over the Earth, like I do, you don't have to. You know, it's totally okay if you don't believe in, you know, an ancient cosmology and share the same view that billions and billions of people have for pretty much ever. But that's my view. My view is that there is a container that is pressurizing our world. And that's a huge part of the plasma apocalypse, is that pressure release. When the pressure is released and the atmospheric pressure leaves this world, and it topples over all kinds of dominoes. But there is a giant object that did smash into the Earth. And it is, ta-da! The moon. That's actually it. Not the light, not the luminary that's in the sky. A light can't crash into the Earth and cause, you know, massive lava, magical magma, lava Earth conditions or whatever. But the reality behind this is that the moon itself, let me go back to the moon. This is a projection, just a light in the sky, of a physical portion of the firmament itself, which I call the apex dome. That portion of the firmament is being projected. Light is passing through it because it acts as a lens, and it's projecting into our atmosphere stars and planets and the sun and the moon and stuff like that, and comets too. So that apex dome, the firmament goes upwards, and then it dips down at the top. That portion, that bowl hanging down in the sky, that's the quintessential all-seeing eye. There are times when people can see this object. The Dark Ages are the best example because there's numerous accounts of people drawing this object, this hanging bowl in the sky, all throughout the Dark Ages. And even going back into antiquity, towards like the quote unquote dawn of civilization in Akkad and Mesopotamia and Babylon and stuff, they also depicted the apex dome. So there were many times whenever people saw this object in the sky. From time to time, every other apocalyptic cycle, when the sky opens up, that dome breaks off and it will fall straight down. It's hanging over the North Pole. Okay? So, over the Arctic Circle, it will break off, it will fall on down, and it will crack open on the Earth, and it will create lots of icebergs and stuff like that and fresh water. But every other cycle, something happens that allows the apex dome to float and not fall to the Earth and not hit the ground. This is a unique theory of my own. I don't know if you guys have heard it anywhere else. If you have, let me know. I'd be happy to check it out. And I don't claim any theories or anything. It's just, something I've discovered or rediscovered on my own path. Now, who's this guy behind me? This is just an artist's depiction of a legendary Titan giant known as King Og. King Og. King Og is probably most famous within Christian communities as being the last of the Rephaim, the last of the line of the Anakim or the Anunnaki, etc. He was a huge giant that fought against Moses in the Old Testament. The legends say he survived the flood. Some of the legends, not the Bible, but biblical legends, right? And it's very interesting when you look into the story of King Og. Basically, he is, he's a type, both a Hebrew type and an Arabic type. In Arabic, he's known as Ibn Uj Anak, which is the son of Anak. And he's a type of Atlas, an Atlas figure. This is in Arabic, this is how he was oftentimes drawn. So you see this Atlas pose, this huge guy, looks like he's holding a giant brain or something. That's a mountain, or it's alleged to be a gigantic mountain. And according to the story, when he went up against Moses in the Old Testament, he stood over the camp of the saints, or the camp of the Israelites. Or if you look at it from my perspective, he was standing over the land that did exist at the North Pole, a circular land where I believe the original Jerusalem was and the original biblical cities and stories happened. So we have this huge Titan. Now, from my perspective, that Titan represents a beam of plasma, a beam of energy, geoplasma that erupts out of the earth from Mount Meru, Rupus Nigra, at the center of the earth. It shoots up, it spreads its arms out just like Atlas does, just like you see here. And it seems to be holding up another world. That other world is that drooping portion of the firmament that I call the apex dome. So we have this figure that goes by many names, and there's many types and tropes from culture to culture across time, right? But it is a figure that is holding up some other world or holding up a mountain, just as King Og was said to have done, holding up a mountain, an entire mountain, with the intention of dropping it onto the Hebrew Israelite camp, which is a whole country, basically. So you must imagine this object that he was holding on to is massive. It's extremely large, okay? Now, according to the legend, whenever he was getting ready to let go, right? So keep in mind, you have to use your imagination. I'm talking about a beam of light that's shooting up from the North Pole, from the center of the world, spreading outward at the top, directly underneath a huge apex dome, which people could see. That apex dome breaks off and starts to come down, threatening the camp of the saints at the land at the North Pole, right? And according to the story, when he went to go do this, God intervened and stopped the mountain when it was around his neck. There's different stories and accounts. Sometimes it says that God caused spikes to grow out of the mountain, and so this mountain was kind of forever stuck on his body, on his neck. And so it never fell. It never fell down to crush the camp of the saints. And this is that apex dome. It happens through electromagnetism. right? So whenever that island below is magnetic, that whole nation, that whole circular island, right? Well, let me show you guys. I didn't have it pulled up here, but Mercator map of the Arctic. That's what we're going to go to. So just so you don't have to imagine what I'm talking about. All right, so this is that island, okay, at the center of the world. See how it's a circle? Boom, circle right there, right? This is the rock in the middle. That rock in the middle, Rupus nigra, means black rock. Every other cycle, it's black. Every other cycle, it's more of a shiny, white-looking, brilliant color. But a beam of light shoots up right out of the middle of that, and then it spreads out its arms, and there's the apex dome directly above it, right? So it creates a sort of stick figure person in the sky, right? A plasma man, a plasma person within esoteric or occult Kabbalistic views. They would call that the first man or the spirit man, Adam Kadmon. Now, it's headless because it just spreads its arms, but the head of it acts as the apex dome itself. And people interpret this in different ways as they perceive it, right? Their perceptions will affect how they tell this story. Now, that whole mass of the apex dome has a hole in it. Because the atmosphere depressurizes, it has to go somewhere. All the gas goes straight to the apex, blows out a hole in the firmament itself. The firmament cracks open, the apex dome falls down, but there is a hole in the apex dome. That hole is right here, right? The rest of the apex dome breaks into pieces all the way around, and we get the Arctic Ocean, the Arctic Sea, or whatnot. And that's going to happen again. It's not going to actually fall down and break. This is the cycle where this whole island, it's electromagnetic in nature, okay? Not only is it just magnetic, like this mountain in the middle is a magnetic mountain. They call that a lodestone mountain. These mountains around the outside are also magnetic. There's also a plasma sheath that goes over this in a sort of dome to protect the Garden of Eden, which is what this is. So it's electromagnetic in nature. The ice comes down, and I haven't quite figured out the science behind it, but I will. I'm working on it. But something electromagnetically causes the ice to just lock in the air, and it hovers above this land right here. And it acts as Asgard. It acts as another world that's floating in the sky, or a city that's floating in the sky, or something like that. And people can actually ride the inner earth plasma, which is cold plasma, or inner earth wind, or zephyr. They can go from the central mountain, and they can ride this inner earth wind that is blowing straight up, and just sort of take a glass elevator up to Asgard, or whatever, so to speak. I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, so let's move on. So that's going to happen again in this upcoming cycle. Now, every other cycle, when the magnetism is off, the electromagnetism retracts and goes back down into the earth, and this whole island shuts down, right? And this is Atlantis as well. It will sink, or the ocean waters will rise and stuff. When that happens, there's nothing to keep that bowl of ice, or that city, that heavenly city, in the air. So it just cracks everywhere. All right, so let's see. Next up, there's a giant Boeing 747 submerged at the bottom of the ocean. And it's surprising, a surprising alternative to the Mojave Desert. Now, this is interesting. There's this huge 747 at the bottom of the ocean. They're saying it's an alternative to the Mojave Desert. I think that's interesting because in the cycle to come, as I said, the atmosphere will depressurize. When the atmosphere depressurizes, according to Archimedes' principle, right, all of the fluid that leaves this container will be instantly replaced by an equally buoyant force. In simple terms, however much atmosphere leaves, however much the weight of that atmosphere is, will be equal to a new weight that will be pushing us upwards, which means everything is going to float. Water especially is going to float. The oceans will be gone. The oceans will be sucked up and out. And they need to be, because they're becoming toxic and they need to be refreshed. The Earth will create new oceans in the cycle after this one. But anyways, in the place where the oceans once were will be desert. The world across, it'll be a desert world, except for in the high places where we now live, where it will be tropical. But in that desert, you will find all kinds of treasures Many different types of ancient, planes, right? Obviously, like this plane over here that this guy's swimming around checking out or whatever. Yeah, you could find all kinds of stuff that sank down to the bottom of the ocean. All kinds of, coins and I don't know, whatever people drop into the ocean. It will be there, but it will be on the desert floor. People will become scavengers after the apocalypse. Some people will go out on missions, leaving the tropical mountain regions to go, collect treasure or whatever. This is an interesting video. So this is actually all these people that are standing right behind the engines. Check this out. Okay, now that's the blowback from the jet engine or from the airplane engine. Imagine what it's going to be like when the entire atmosphere of the Earth depressurizes. It's going to create the largest low pressure system ever seen. Okay, though not only will it be a worldwide hurricane, but it's going to spawn off little tiny twisters and tornadoes and mini hurricanes and stuff as well. And on top of things floating into the air, including people are just going to get sucked up and out. They're going to be blown away, right? You're going to be blown away by the plasma apocalypse. Now, this is fun. This is an interesting little segment. This article says a soulless robot. Wait, let me double check my chat. I just want to make sure you guys can still hear me. Thanks again, Jim Donovan. High five. You guys can hear me okay, right? Last time my audio cut out and I don't know what happened. All right, I'm going to assume it's good because I don't see people freaking out. All right, cool. So let's continue on. Soulless robot Olaf, from Disney's Frozen. Soulless robot Olaf will haunt Disney theme parks in search of friendship. The Frozen character is somewhat cute, but more unnerving. Now, I watched many videos of Olaf. It looks very realistic, actually. This little robot goes around, it blinks realistically, it talks to people, probably has AI or something infused into it. It just wanders around, talking to people, interacting with people. It's interesting to me that they call it a soulless robot and how it will haunt Disney theme parks in search of friendship. I don't know what they're playing at, but the omen is real behind theme park animatronics, especially those that are infused with AI and can freely move about and they're not like connected to anything else through wires. This will happen. Robots, animatronics at theme parks across the world, one of these days are going to have souls. They're going to be infused with so much energy that is ambient in the atmosphere. The energy in the atmosphere will be electrically amplified, just as we recently saw with those auroras that stretched down to Florida. And the same thing with the Carrington event that turned on telegraph machines, and people were getting shocked by the telegraph machines and whatnot, right? So these animatronics will come on and they will haunt those that didn't get sucked up, because there's like a lot of indoor places and underground places and stuff here too, in all these theme parks. They're going to be haunting the theme parks, okay? These animatronics will turn on all by themselves, and they will do whatever they want to. They're not going to listen to you or to anyone else. It's like they have free will. Pardon me. Now, this is shown to us in our pop culture. Speaking of pop, these characters here are known as Bottle and Cappy, respectively, and they're from one of my favorite video games, which is called Fallout, specifically Fallout 4, where it is a post-apocalyptic world. These guys are they own their own theme park. It's basically like Mickey Mouse and Goofy, you know what I mean? So in this theme park called Nuka World, they're just hanging out. It's all post-apocalyptic. It's all broken down, but the robots are still alive. They're still moving around. They're still walking around all by themselves. And when you play the video game, they'll walk up to you and talk to you, and then they'll glitch out and they'll make threatening remarks, or they'll come after you or something, right? Well, this is shown to us in other ways too in pop culture. Five Nights at Freddy's. It's basically haunted Chuck E. Cheese, right? Or Willy's Wonderland, where the theme park animatronics come to life. They have a life of their own. They have a spirit inside of them, which is plasma that goes into the body, right? That's what plasma is looking for. It's looking to be a part of this world. And so it brings to life, it brings good things to life, just like the GE logo or motto or whatever. So this is one of the things that will happen. It's the robot rebellion, and it's a part of the plasma apocalypse. Every part of every apocalyptic scenario you've ever heard of, at least portions of it, are true. And they're all a part of a much bigger apocalyptic scenario called the plasma apocalypse. If you want more details on that, go to my website, JayDreamerZ.com, or check out my book, because I do talk about it pretty extensively. This next article says, formation of oceans within icy moons could cause the waters to boil. A rigid ice shell over a shrinking interior makes for pressures low enough to boil. And then they show you this creepy looking Death Star eyeball moon, which is appropriate because there's only one moon in this world, okay? From my perspective, there's not galaxies out there. There's a magic eye, which is the apex dome, which is hanging above us. And like I said, it casts the stars into the sky. So that's where the book Magic Eye got its name from, okay? You stare into it, and pretty soon you're looking through it like you're staring up at the sky, and you're imagining you can go through it, like off into space or whatever, right? You can when the sky opens, but it won't be space. It'll just be liminal spaces between the cave system of the world beyond, or the macrocosm beyond. I want to point this out too. You ever see these craters on the moon or whatever? And there's always a little mountain in the middle. That's not from anything hitting it. It's like if a huge asteroid hits that, it's not going to cause a little dimple in the middle. It's going to leave a huge, valley or something like that. Electricity does this though. So if you zap something electrically, it will create canyons around the outside, and it will almost always create a little tiny peak right in the middle where the electricity actually pulls it up. So that's pretty interesting. The same thing happened in Tunguska. I don't know if you guys have seen the Tunguska impact area. So in Siberia, let's look that up just for fun. Tunguska impact. I have a video, and I've made it available to the public about Tunguska, and I talk about this. And there's this impact area in Tunguska. If you could find the older pictures, it's really interesting, because in the middle, the trees were left standing, but all the way around, the trees were blown over. Well, I don't really want to take the time to go look it up right now, but check out that video because it's a really interesting one. All right, let's continue on. Let's see, we talked about the robot rebellion. We talked about, the ocean's boiling, right? Why do people always skip this when it comes to the apocalypse? The oceans can boil, water can boil whenever the pressure is low enough. Like I said, there's going to be a massive low pressure system in this world when the atmosphere depressurizes, when the hole in the sky breaks open and all of our pressurized atmosphere goes right up and out, right? That's not the only thing that can cause the water to appear to boil, though. If you run electricity through it, it will naturally start releasing gas. It's called electrolysis, right? You can actually do this as a scientific experiment yourself or with your kids or something. If you get a battery and you connect a wire to each side and you just stick those wires into some water, it'll start bubbling because the electricity is separating hydrogen from oxygen, and the water will actually bubble. It's not boiling because it's hot or anything like that. Now, can it boil because it's hot? Yes. Will it boil because it's hot? Yes. Because the sun, the focal point up there in the heavens, is getting brighter and hotter, and daylight is shortening, and we live during the quickening of the days. But that's another story, and eventually the sun's going to boil, probably boil like a lot of the waters in the Arctic. Let's see. At the edge of our solar system, NASA's Voyager 1 found a wall of fire at the edge of our solar system. So, the sun, in the academic model, the sun's in the middle. All the planets in our local little neighborhood of space are going around it. And they said at the very edge of that is a wall of fire, right? Well, that's so interesting. I don't know what they're talking about. They're trying to say it's super hot, way far away from the sun, right? You know, like space is supposed to be like negative 300-400 degrees Fahrenheit. But yeah, they're saying several years ago, both spacecraft reached a wall of fire at the very end of our solar system, with temperatures reaching 90,000 degrees Fahrenheit as they passed through. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm so sure. I'm so sure your little dinky satellite or whatever just passed through 90,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Like it didn't melt. This means the Voyager spacecraft have reached the very edge of the heliosphere, a boundary scientists theorized about long before it took flight. Blah, 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 blah. What is the heliosphere? Listen, I'm not going to get into what NASA believes it is, or what your school system is teaching your children that it is. I'm going to just tell you what I believe it is, because I believe there's a dome. On the other side of that dome is the edge of our solar system, because all of the galaxies and all of the solar system and all of that is under the dome. It's all local. There is stuff beyond the dome. There are other worlds and stuff out there, but it's vastly different than what it looks like from way down here. On the other side of that dome is a huge filament of plasma, a huge tube of plasma that is going over and around the dome. The light from that plasma passes through the dome, like the apex dome, and spreads out stars and little points of focus and projections and stuff into our atmosphere. And we puts on a light show, right? And that plasma is hot. That plasma is destructive. That is the wall of fire that they are referring to, right? I don't know what they think they're referring to, but at the very least, as far as an omen of reality, as I perceive it, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the edge of the solar system is the edge of where our atmosphere meets the solid container, which is the firmament. Next up. Oh, Tesla. So Tesla is in the news. Something about lawsuits, patents, and other crap I really don't care about. But I did see this logo, and I did want to talk about this. This Tesla logo is designed this way purposefully. This center portion, right? This is the tree of life, okay? The Anglo-Saxon world tree looks exactly like that, okay? It's also purposefully done to look like a tent peg spike, right? This is what a tent peg looks like without that little dome at the top, which is exactly what that is. That's the dome. But it's a spike. That beam of light that shoots up from Mount Meru at the center, right? It goes upward and then it splits off to the sides. And some people interpret this as like a bird, a double-headed phoenix, or an eagle, or all kinds of stuff, right? And then I know that this is what it represents, because this over the top is the dome. That's the firmament. Well, where's the apex dome? It is this triangle right underneath, just like that. In antiquity, that's how they drew the letter D. They would have a top portion and then a triangle that points downwards. That triangle is called the delta. The delta is a door. Let's check it out. Let's see what they got, right? Now, if we look up the ancient versions of the letter D, let's see if I can zoom in here. I don't know if I could zoom in far enough for you guys to see it, but I'll try. Oh, here we go. This is a good one. All right, so here's a really old one from about, I don't know, 3,000 years ago or something. As you can see, there's a line at the top. That's the firmament. And then there's this drooping, hanging U shape or bowl shape or dome or whatever. That's the apex dome. Dalet, or D or delta means doorway. It means opening. It means Stargate originally. So over time, they would draw it in many different ways, eventually just drawing it pointy, making it a triangle. Typically, it is a triangle pointing downward because it's hanging down from the firmament itself. And then over time, they would just draw, just like that. They would draw a D And then our sense of direction started to flip. Our thought process started to flip. We had a polarity shift within our very own mind and our synapses and stuff. So we started seeing things kind of backwards and upside down, and it reflected in the way that we draw and the direction in which we write, from right to left, and then now from left to right, right? But that's the letter D. And that's exactly what you see here on the Tesla logo. That's the Stargate at the top. That's the Dalet, the triangle pointing downward. And this is the beam of light that shoots up from Mount Meru, or the center of the world, or the Garden of Eden, or Hyperborea. And it splits off to either side, right? You can also see it as like an eye. It's appropriate because that's the eye in the sky. All right, next up. What if? I would just like to remind everyone, this is more a... saying what if is not a question. So there should never be an actual question mark at the end of when someone says what if. It's not a question. But I get it. You're trying to tell someone, hey, I'd like you to consider, what do you think if this happens or whatever, right? So what if a tiny black hole shot through your body? So I just want to remind everybody, there is no such thing as a black hole. like a hole in space is non-existent. Okay, a hole has to be in something of substance. You can't just have a hole in nothing, right? Not even a hole in space. Space is the hole, right? It's like having a hole in a hole. What does that look like? It's non-existent. They're trying to redirect and manipulate your thoughts in your mind. There is a black hole, which is whenever the apex dome busts open, and that will be the black hole sun. People see the dome up there because it'll be lit up by plasmas, mostly magenta in color, and people will see it and they'll draw it once again. They'll make rock carvings. They'll come out of their cave, they'll look at the sky, and they'll be like, oh my god, we have to record this, right? That will be the black hole in the sky, the actual black hole, right? And that's what black holes are. There is no what if a black hole passed through your body or whatever, except for on the microcosmic scale, fractally speaking, holographically speaking. I personally believe, and I talk about this on my website under the section called Fractalverse, I believe that there are all the cosmos that are out there above and beyond the dome are also under my dome. They're also in my mind, that there are cosmos upon cosmos. And we don't think about the people or entities or beings or animals or plants or all the stuff that's growing in our actual thoughts inside of our minds. But that's a different subject. Next up. An ancient life form frozen for 40,000 years woke up in Alaska. 6 months later, everything changed. Buried beneath Alaska's frozen soil for 40,000 years, something ancient has come back to life, quietly at first, and then all at once. What scientists discovered deep in the permafrost is now raising urgent alarms about the future of Earth's climate. All right, well, that's a bunch of gibberish. That sounds like a novel or something. Let me explain what they're talking about. Up in the far north, around the Arctic Circle, is what they call permafrost, right? It's basically a bunch of dead crap from the last apocalyptic cycle that instantly froze in place all at once. They're not going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you that, okay? What happens is when we have atmospheric depressurization, it creates a world storm. At the center of that world storm, there's a suction zone, just like there is in a hurricane or a tornado or a funnel or whatever, right? The suction zone pulls things upward. But there's also a downdraft just on the other side of it. That downdraft corresponds to what we call today the Arctic Circle. So freezing cold air. And this is shown to you in the movie The Day After Tomorrow, which I have decoded on my Truth in Movies playlist. Please check it out. It's very good. Super cold air gets pulled downwards, rushes down from high up in the atmosphere, and instantly freezes everything in its path. Right? Some stuff's already dead because it's the apocalypse. Some stuff isn't dead at all, right? Like the woolly mammoths. That's a classic example. Woolly mammoths that have no business being out in the snow because they need to eat tons and tons and tons of vegetation just to survive. They're not out in the frozen tundra picking up weeds and, eating tumbleweeds and crap like that. They're not doing that. They didn't live in the snow. Mammoths weren't woolly because it's so cold they needed to, grow more hair or whatever. You ever look at monkeys and other animals that live in the jungle and in Africa? They're pretty hairy. You know what I mean? But it became a frozen tundra instantly. So all the dead stuff that turned into ice and froze and all compacted together, right, or landed back down in that spot, is today called permafrost. It's permanent dead biological material. Dead people, dead animals, dead mammoths, dead plants, all kinds of dead stuff, right? And it's frozen. So it's a bunch of frozen dead stuff that's a remnant from the last plasma apocalypse. In addition to that, disease. In addition to that, viruses and all kinds of weird stuff. I've never once seen a movie where the permafrost melted and they're like, oh, it revealed, the secret to everyone being happy and world peace. No. There's always something nasty that's stuck in this dead zone of frozen deadness. And when it melts, it's never good. Okay. It will melt too. I know it's melting now. Don't be one of the people that's tricked and thinks, oh, it's going to take forever to melt. I'm not even going to tell you like, oh, it's melting faster a little bit every day. When the sun turns blue, which it will, it's going to make its way north. And then it's really going to melt all of it all at one time. And it'll release all the crap that's been storing up, all the gases, all the methane. There's a good chance that some parts of the north might actually just blow up and explode, similar to Tunguska. But anyway, let's see. Anything else on here I wanted to talk about? Oh, microorganisms. Yeah. People will go up there too. They'll dig up some frozen mammoths and they'll eat that stuff. Even though it's full of, microorganisms from allegedly 40,000 years ago. Keep in mind, though, time is speeding up, so these figures are probably wrong. And time has been speeding up for quite some time. Speeding up even faster now, though, that we're closer to the end. All right, let's talk about Comet 3i Atlas, everybody's favorite comet. All right, Comet 3i Atlas, let's check it out. There are now jets, beams of light, coming out of Comet 3i Atlas after it has allegedly passed the sun. Let's see what this reporter has to say.
Turning now to a mystery in space we've been following since it first appeared in our skies 3 months ago. We are talking about that interstellar object known as 3i Atlas. Most scientists think it's a comet, but one high-profile Harvard astronomer has been making the case on this show and other places that its anomalous behavior and characteristics suggest that it might be alien technology.
Anomalous behavior is indicative of an omen of the apocalypse. Okay, when you have anomalies starting to happen, a whole bunch across the world, that's a huge sign collectively that the apocalypse is on the way. Now, personally, I believe this is called a chromatic aberration, that this is just a light in the sky. I don't believe this is going to smash into the earth or hit the earth or anything like that. It's a light in the sky. I don't believe in the snowball slushy theory that that's where the oceans came from, as a bunch of space snowballs smashed into the earth when it was magical magma lava earth. I don't believe in any of that fiction. You can if you'd like to, and that's totally fine. I don't judge you or anything. But this is interesting. Listen to what this guy's going to say is coming off of this light.
Perhaps a probe. 3i Atlas recently passed closest to the sun and will...
Time out. Hold on. Let's just suppose. Everyone wants this to be a metallic alien craft with little green men. Okay? If it wants to land on Earth, why wouldn't it just land on Earth? You would think that an advanced alien civilization would know ahead of the time on their way to, some planet that they've chosen or picked out or whatever, what kind of technology we have and what they might be up against, being cautious and stuff, like I would assume that they would be if they have technology to do stuff like this, right? Why are they going around the sun and not only that, let me let the guy talk.
Will soon pass close to the Earth, but it may not be in
close to the Earth. It's already close to the Earth because it's under the dome.
Professor Loeb says that based on his calculations, it looks like 3i Atlas has been losing an extreme amount of mass. which could mean it's exploded into a dozen smaller pieces. So, is it just another fascinating celestial phenomenon, or did the mothership just separate into a squadron of reconnaissance aircraft?
This is so funny. You see that? It's a dot of light, and they're calling it the mothership. There is a mothership. It's that apex dome when it comes down, and there's probably life forms on it. However, I have to, I'm going to keep an open mind because my ideas are wild. My theories are crazy and out there, so I'm not trying to put anyone down for their theories or whatever. But this is based on NASA, which is backed by the government and is a department of the government who are known liars. So there's that.
Harvard professor.
As Richie from Boston would say. So there's that.
Avi Loeb joins us now. That question is only slightly in jest, given everything you've been saying. Did we see it explode, or did we just happen to go back and measure it and say, oh my...
This dude behind me, let me jump out of the way. Have you guys ever seen Ghostbusters Part 2? You know that one like Czechoslovakian dude that gets possessed? He's like, Is Vigo! Why am I drippings with goo? That's what he reminds me of. Anyways, let me jump out of the way and let you hear him out. Camera for pow. All right.
My gosh, it's now much smaller and in a few different pieces.
Well, what we see are 7 jets coming out of these objects, more than 7 actually, after it passed close to the sun on October 29th. And we can see that some of these jets are pointed towards the sun, and they penetrate over 1 million kilometers through the solar wind. We know that...
Hold on, there's so much stuff I want to comment on already. One, there are 7 beams of light, basically, that are coming out of this little object. That is an omen of what is known as the Septon Trio, or the Septentrion. Or I don't know if it's known, but I've made it known. Okay, it's something that I study and I talk about. To the north, the Atlantic, or the Arctic, is known today as the Septon Trio, the Septentrion. Look at many maps, especially antique maps, and you'll see that they say Septentrion, Septentrio, Septentrionalis, etc., all over the north, right? It's the 7 trees, the 7 beams of light, the 7 mountains of revelation, and they're plasma volcanoes, and they emit light that shoots up into the sky. So these 7 beams of light that are already showing up here are an omen, which is what comets are in and of themselves always, of the Septentrion about to reemerge, or huge pillars of light that will rise up from the Arctic as these mountains reappear, basically. Now, what else did he say? Something about solar wind? Listen, if it's in the vacuum of space, there's no wind in a vacuum of space. It's just, there's no weather. I know they like to have space weather. That's a new word people are throwing around. The only reason there is space weather is because space exists between the surface of our world and the dome above. That's the space. That's why you can have weather up there. That's why you can have solar wind, which is what actually creates the jet stream up there. That's why when they're floating up there, because there's a lot of gas pressure that just goes to the center of the space that is between us and the dome, it causes things to become buoyant. So things float in the middle, in the space. And that's why they can use spritzes of air to move around. If it was a true vacuum, they wouldn't be able to. Space would happily just accept whatever it is. You wouldn't be able to push against anything. And Comet 3I Atlas, if it was a space slushy snowball, right, when it has this alleged outgassing called an antitail, right, where it's like it's shooting gas in front of it, in the same way that NASA uses spritzes of gas to move around. This thing would just put on space brakes. It would just slow down and stop. You'd have a comet just stop right there in space.
Properties, the density and speed of the solar wind. So we can figure out that for a natural comet, with the characteristic outflow speed of these jets that come off pockets of ice on a natural comet, given that speed, we can tell that there is a lot of mass carried by these jets so that they can penetrate through the solar wind, about 5 billion tons. And in order to get that much mass out of ice, we need a large surface area of an object. And it turns out that it's a surface area of an object that is at least 20 kilometers in diameter, much bigger than the original estimate for the size of the object. So that would mean for a natural comet that it was broken up into many pieces such that the surface area, the total amount of surface of these many pieces adds up to the amount of mass that we need to release by vaporizing volatiles. Now, in the case of a technological object, maybe the jets are coming out of thrusters, in which case technological thrusters can reach much higher speeds for the gas that comes out of them, in which case we don't need as much mass. The fuel can be a small fraction of the mass of the spacecraft. So the coming weeks will be really decisive.
In short, this guy's saying that this is a spacecraft, that these are aliens, that they're on their way to Earth right now. I do believe in aliens. I don't believe that aliens ride on huge lights in the sky. You know what I mean? They have tails flying off of them and all this whatever weird stuff. I don't believe they're aliens. I don't believe this is a snowball, a space snowball. To me, this is a chromatic aberration, which is an optical effect from the light passing through the dome, hitting anomalies, which are craters or mini domes that are on the surface itself. And the light doesn't come to a perfect focus, right? So this would be like wandering stars like the planets, which are also lights, right? But it creates a tail. Sometimes the planets do this. So Mercury, I think it was earlier this year, we covered a story where Mercury had a comet tail. A whole planet had a comet tail. Explain that. You know what I mean? That's because it's a light in the sky. And this is an aberration. This is the light messing up, right? This is the image messing up. The moon is going to do this too. The moon, likely, if it follows suit, will probably have some sort of tail or debris that looks like it's coming off of it or something. I've talked many times about lunar transient phenomenons, right? Or phenomena, where people have seen lights on the moon. They've seen domes on the moon. They've seen the moon crack. They've seen the moon split. Time and time again. So anyways, this is pretty interesting. Anything else he has to say?
Either we see a fragmented object where the pieces will get separated from each other by the tide from the sun, or we would see an object that maintains its integrity and has very high-speed jets coming out of it, in which case we will have to contemplate a technological origin.
When are you going to know this, Avi? I mean, you're obviously watching how each of these 7 pieces now travels? If it's in a coordinated way, or? Yeah,
we will get data from hundreds of observatories around the Earth, plus the Hubble and Webb telescopes in the coming weeks.
Listen, they have allegedly cameras, 4K, 8K, whatever cameras on Mars, all right? They have helicopters, remote controlled drones, Johnny 5 freaking remote control cars on Mars, right? With 4K crystal clear resolution and stuff. They took a video allegedly of a missile being shot at an asteroid and recorded all the way up until bam, it smashed into it. Where's the pictures of Comet 3I Atlas or whatever? Where is it? Hold on, this is too big. I just want to share this with you. That's it. That's what you get right there. See that little dot? Yeah, that's the picture that you get of this anomalous strain. Look, there it is again. Oh my God. Where are the close-ups? Where's the real stuff? You know what I mean? There it is right there. Lucas! Hey, welcome to the Good Vibe Tribe, Lucas. But look at this crap. I mean, excuse my language, but damn, that's garbage, okay? They don't give us crap when it comes to pictures of the moon, let alone video. We're led to believe that they're remote controlling little helicopters on frickin' Mars, right? They're shooting missiles at random asteroids and stuff, but you can't get a picture of this like thing that's supposed to be an alien spacecraft. Something's fishy. Oh, that's all I'm gonna say. Next up, Scientists engineer the first fully synthetic brain tissue model. New material could enable more reliable animal-free drug testing. Yeah, I'm sure. What does this mean? This means that they are making brains. Synthetic brains, which is a PC way of saying robot brains. Brains for robots. Actual biological brains that I believe they are going to put into these humanoid robots that they are currently making all over the world. Neural tissue engineering's overall goal is to create something that closely resembles the structure and function of the human brain, enabling more reproducible neurological disease studies and drug testing. So they want to make an actual brain so that they could test on it because it's less harmful to animals or whatever. So they're literally going to create life, a human brain, and then they're going to test stuff on it or whatever. My theory is that they are trying to recreate the human race. That they're actually trying to recreate, or I don't know if they're trying to. I think it's just a part of the cycle of how things go. Okay, like what came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first, humanoid robots or humans, right? I think it's possibly, this is one of my theories, but I think it's sort of cyclical, okay? That everything is robotic. If everything is a simulation, right? If everything is just energetic or whatever, if we get really deep about it, we're jumping into simulation theory, which means basically everything is a video game. Everything is, not actual real. It's a dream. We live in a dream world, right? So if that's the case, then yes, everything basically is robotic. You can make the case for that, including us. So if we become degraded over time, as all things are through entropy at the moment, until the apocalypse comes, then entropy is going to reverse for a bit, okay? But if humanity, just the human design, the human body itself, I mean, look at the gray hairs, you know what I mean? Getting old and diseases and all this stuff, right? What if you use the last generation of humans to produce the next one, the next perfect generation or whatever, right? What does this mean? It's interesting. It's philosophical in nature. It's philosophy, right? What if we are robots? Is what I posit. That's not really a question, but supposing, right, that we were, it's an interesting reckoning, right? If we were robots and we were just intuitively recreating ourselves, why else would we be trying to make human brains to put into, these are going to go into the humanoid robots, right? I don't know. It's an interesting thought for me to think about. I mean, they're making all this, they're making biological life. They're making human muscle tissue. They're making human lungs, human organs, now human brains, and they're going to put they've already put human brain tissue into robots. Okay? They're already doing that. It's not something I'm guessing they will do. They're already doing it. Next up, 4 more suspects are arrested in the Louvre jewel heist. Paris prosecutor says. I also don't believe this story. Okay? This is probably the most famous museum on Earth. Right? I mean, this little pyramid deal alone is interesting. I could probably talk about this whole museum. But allegedly, some people just walked on into the Louvre, grabbed some $1 million jewels that were just sitting out, which they don't do that. Okay? And they just took off. They just walked out of the front door or side door or whatever it was. It wasn't even as well thought out as you see in the movies, like National Treasure or something like that. It was nothing like that. It's basically some people walked in, grabbed some jewels off the shelf, and just left. Okay, I'm minimizing it, but that's basically kind of what happened. That doesn't happen at the Louvre, right? Something is suspicious. Something is going on here that's strange. This place houses some of the most famous works of art throughout history. Also, in addition to this robbery that they just underwent, the Louvre Museum shuts its doors as staff say that they're overwhelmed. So then in addition to this, they just closed the Louvre earlier this year in June. So they're closing it. They allegedly got robbed. They had to close it again. You know what this reminds me of? The movie Greenland, which is all about the governments, the elite of the world, the mega super rich of the world, who knew ahead of time that there was an apocalyptic event, cyclical, that's on the way that would destroy the world. So they made preparations. A part of these preparations, when they knew they were getting close, because they were watching the Omens, what did they do? They shut down the museums, like the major museums. They shut them down, and they took all of like the Mona Lisas and the Rembrandts and the Picassos and like the stuff they wanted to save so that they could take it with them into these huge arcs that they had made to survive the apocalypse. And then they replaced it when they opened up and reopened these museums with fakes. Like, it's not too much of a leap, right? If it's true that the apocalypse is imminent and is on the way, now it makes sense that, you know, we've got this cover story that some random jewel thieves just walked on in, grabbed some $1 million jewels and just walked on out. But that's their story. Was that it? Yeah, that was it for today. So thanks everybody for watching. Go check out my YouTube channel if you want to grab yourself one of these handy dandy JayDreamerZ keychains. You can find that on my website. There's a better look at it. There you go. It's nice and shiny. Boom, it's pretty sweet. JayDreamerZ.com. If you want to support me and jump into the credits, you can go to my Patreon, patreon.com/JayDreamerZ, where there's a 24-hour live chat where you can join the discussion. Many other things too. And what else? I want to say thank you to my sponsors, Par and Some Lady, which she wanted to go by, Some Lady. And yeah, that's all I got for today. So, oh, and go check out my shorts. I've been putting out some sweet shorts lately too. All right, until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.